Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, our mission is, it's a journey about 5,000 years in the making.
It really is.
We're tackling what might be the ultimate question of selfhood. Why are we all so different? Why are some people so calm and focused while others are just constantly striving, constantly stressed?
And then you have others who seem, sort of trapped in lethargy and confusion.
Exactly. And our source material for this is the Bhagavad Gita, specifically chapter 14. And if you kind of strip away the mythological frame, it's arguably the world's oldest, most comprehensive text on human psychology.
It's complete blueprint.
Yeah, so we're diving into that blueprint. The three gunas, or the fundamental qualities of nature, sattva, rajas, and tamas.
And it's so much more than just a categorization tool. It's really a manual for freedom. I mean, what makes this chapter so vital is where it sits in the Gita's philosophy.
Right.
The core message is never about total withdrawal or, renunciation, what's called vairagya. It's about learning to live a life of appropriate action, a karma pradhan jivan.
But without being a slave to it.
Exactly. Without being enslaved by your own actions or desires. And to do that, to get that freedom, you first have to understand the mechanisms that bind you.
The ropes.
The gunas are those mechanisms. They act like three inescapable ropes. So our task for you today is to really analyze those ropes so you can maybe start to loosen them.
Okay, let's unpack this blueprint then. The source material calls this the supreme knowledge, param gyanan. So why? Why does knowing about these forces grant liberation?
Well, the source is pretty direct about it. It says that once this knowledge is truly known, and not just known, but embodied, you gain liberation. You're no longer subject to the cycle of rebirth. But maybe more simply, if you can grasp how the entire cosmos and, all life forms were actually created, you gain the perspective you need to step outside of that creation's influence.
Okay, so how does it describe that creation process?
It uses this really powerful analogy of a cosmic partnership. Think of two universal parents coming together. The fundamental material nature of the universe, the stuff everything is made of, that's the mother. In this chapter, it's called the Great Brahma, or Maha Brahma. It's the womb, the yoni, where existence begins.
And if material nature is the mother, then the father is the divine, Ishvara.
Precisely. The divine is the one who places the seed of consciousness, this animating, vast soul, which is called the Chitan Samudaya embryo, places it right into that material womb.
So you get this combination of, inert matter, Jada.
Yes, Jada, and animating consciousness, Chaitana. And that union gives rise to all living beings. The scriptures talk about 84 lakh distinct species or life forms being born from this.
That really sets the scene. Every single one of us is this mix of matter and spirit. But here's the question I think the learner really needs answered. If that fundamental consciousness, the jiva, is eternal and vast, and if nature, prakriti, is the same stuff everywhere, then why do we feel so individual, so limited, so often trapped in this specific body with this constant sense of I and mine?
That is the exact problem that chapter 14 solves. The three guna, sattva, rajas, and tamas are born from this material nature, from prakriti. They are qualities of the material world.
Okay.
But they don't just stay there. They act as three literal ropes that bind that eternal soul, the jiva, to the body. They're what make us feel small and finite and, compelled to act. They tether the limitless to the limited.
Let's look at those ropes one by one then, starting with the one that, on the surface, sounds the most appealing, sattva guna. The rope of light and happiness.
Sattva is definitely the purest quality. It's described as nirmal, so clean and pure, and prakash karniwala, luminous. It's the quality that allows true knowledge to shine through.
Like clean water.
That's a great analogy. If the water in a lake is absolutely clear and still, light can easily reach the bottom, and you can see the true depths. Sattva does that for the mind and intellect. It gives us mental clarity and freedom from defects, or vikar rahit.
Okay, hold on. If my goal is clarity and peace and knowledge, all the things sattva delivers, why on earth is it still considered a rope? This feels like the sophisticated trap we need to understand.
It is. It sounds so counterintuitive, but it's probably the most subtle and, in some ways, dangerous trap. Sattva binds you not through misery, but through an attachment to happiness, to sukh, and crucially, through the ego of knowledge. Think about it. You meditate, you achieve this profound clarity, you help people, and then you start to think, I am a wise, knowledgeable, and happy person.
Right. The I comes right back in.
The desire to hold on to that feeling is the rope. The source says this state leads you to seek more suk and more knowledge, creating this subtle but really potent bondage. It's kind of intellectual pride.
So you're still striving.
You're still striving to maintain your high state. And in that striving, you're still reacting to and dependent on the material world. The true self shouldn't depend on any feeling, even a pleasant one.
I see. It's the difference between being happy and being addicted to the feeling of happiness.
That's a perfect way to put it.
Okay, so if sattva is the subtle trap of pride, rajas is the noisy external one. Tell us about rajoguna, the rope of passion and action.
Rajas is all about desire. The Gita calls it Trishna, which means a deep, unquenchable thirst and intense attachment, or sang. It's the engine of all emotional attachment, which is raga.
So we feel a craving, the trishna, and that craving forces us to act.
Exactly. When you have a craving, Rajas forces you into action to satisfy it. But here's the hook. Once you get the object, a promotion, a car, whatever, Rajas immediately forces you into continuous action, or karma, to protect what you just gained.
And that's the saying, the possessiveness.
That's saying. And it creates this perpetual exhausting cycle. You act, you get a temporary result. That result creates new attachments, which leads to new cravings, which demand even more action.
It's the fuel of hustle culture.
100%. This constant attachment to the results of your action is the mechanism that keeps the soul firmly bound to the human realm, always chasing external validation.
That makes perfect sense. I mean, it looks productive on the outside, which is why our society is so dominated by it, but internally it's just perpetual restlessness.
All striving, no peace.
Okay, so finally we move to tamoguna, the rope of darkness and ignorance. This one feels fundamentally different because it doesn't seem to have any positive side effects.
None at all. Tamas arises from deep ignorance, Aigyan, which naturally generates delusion, mo, where sattva illuminates, tamas just. It covers, it obscures, it weighs you down.
And how does it bind you?
Its binding mechanism is the most detrimental because it just prevents all progress, both worldly and spiritual. It binds through what's called pramadso, heedlessness, doing worthless deeds, along with profound laziness, alalja, and excessive sleep, nidra.
It's burnout. It's sitting on the couch just endlessly scrolling, unable to start the things you know you should be doing.
Exactly. The fruit of tamas is exclusively ignorance. There's no upside.
So we have light, passion, and darkness. But the real key here, I think, is that we're not just one of these. All three are always present in this internal tug of war.
That is absolutely vital for you to grasp. The source states very clearly that the three gunas are mutually suppressive. At any given moment, one guna will dominate, pushing the other two into the background.
Which explains so much.
It explains why your mood, your behavior, even your worldview can just flip from calm reflection to anxious striving and then crash into total lethargy, sometimes all in the same afternoon.
So what are the practical symptoms? What should we look for to know which one is the temporary victor inside us right now?
Okay, so when sattva is truly dominant, your inner self and all your senses become alert. The word is sajag. And most critically, your intellect gains the power to discriminate, vivek shakti,
The ability to tell right from wrong.
effortlessly. The ability to distinguish between what is right and wrong, truth and falsehood. You just feel clear, calm, and grounded.
And rajas. We talked about striving, but what does that feel like on the inside?
Raja's dominance is, well, it's intensely unpleasant internally. It generates intense greed, wanting way more than you need, and compulsive activity, pravritti.
And that restlessness.
A profound restlessness, ashanti. There's a constant self-centered starting of work sakampav, where everything has to have a payoff. And an excessive craving for sensual objects, or vishabhoga kilalasa. It's that feeling where you feel like you must be doing something, even if you don't know why.
That inner restlessness is the signature.
God.
And tamas dominance is the opposite of clarity.
The total opposite. It's characterized by a loss of awareness, Aprakash. You feel unable to perform your necessary duties, you get caught up in worthless activities, pramad, and just suffer from a general stupefaction or dullness, mutta.
Like your brain is wrapped in cotton wool.
Yeah, if you feel like that and have no motivation or direction, Kamas has won that round.
This brings us to a really powerful takeaway, something highlighted by the commentator Ramasukdasa. Since the gunas are always changing, the biggest mistake we can make is to identify with a temporary state.
This is such a vital point. It connects this ancient wisdom directly to modern psychology. If a wave of laziness, tamas, hits you and you think, I am a lazy person, you are inviting that defect to become a permanent part of your identity.
You're accepting the rope's binding.
You are. The required skill is to observe the guna's rise, but then exert your personal capacity or samarthya to overcome that fleeting tendency, rather than just accepting it as an inherent flaw of your soul.
So you have to remind yourself, the guna is the actor, not me.
The guna is the actor, not the self. That changes everything. It moves you from self-blame to strategic, detached observation. You are not the anxiety. You are the one observing the anxiety.
Now, speaking of results, the source material links the gunas not just to our behavior now, but to the ultimate direction of our lives. It talks about the rule of the guna that's dominant at the last moment.
Yes, the stakes are cosmic. The guna that's dominating at the time of death is said to determine your next destination.
Okay, so what are the outcomes?
If the individual is dominated by sattva, they achieve upward movement, urdhvagati, and ascend to high, pure realms like Swargaloka, the heavenly realms. The life's work of a sattvic person results in purity, knowledge, and happiness.
And if rajas is dominant,
They remain in the middle realms, so human rebirth among those who are attached to action and its results. And the final outcome of a rajasic life, full of all that striving, is ultimately sorrow, dukkha.
and tamas leads to downward movement, adogati, rebirth in ignorant species. The result of a life mired in tamas is just ignorance, Adyan.
But, and this is a critical clarification from great commentators like Swami Chinmayananda, this upward and downward movement doesn't just apply to the afterlife, it applies to the current moment.
So it's not just about where I go next, but who I am becoming right now, with every choice I make.
Precisely. Upward movement, or dhagati, means you're increasing your current state of consciousness, becoming more alert, more discriminatory, more aligned with the divine.
And downward movement.
Adhogati means you're decreasing that awareness. You're becoming more inert, dull, self-deluded. Basically, more like a stone in your response to life. Every action driven by a guna is either elevating or degrading your current state of being right now.
So if the gunas are these inescapable parts of nature, how do we transcend them? This state of being beyond the gunas is called gunatita. What's the key realization that unlocks that freedom?
The key realization, and it's stated very clearly in verse 19, is to recognize that the gunas are the soul agents, the karta, in the inner selves, the antakarana.
So in the mind, ego, and intellect.
Yes, and if the gunas are the actors, then the eternal soul, the atma, must be the non-doer, the akarta,
The witness.
the witness. Once you truly know that, not just intellectually, but existentially, that the gunas are doing all the work, you free yourself from the spiritual scorekeeping of sin and merit, papunya. It is Prakriti doing the work, and you are just the witness.
So once that realization is active, what does a gunatita person actually look like? How do they behave in daily life? The source gives us a great checklist.
First and foremost, they display this profound impartiality. They don't hate the gunas when they arise, the clarity of sattva, the compulsive action of rajas, or the delusion of tamas.
And they don't crave them when they're gone either.
Exactly. They just observe the inner show. They maintain a neutral observation, remaining udasin, unconcerned, unswayed. They watch the gunas acting among the gunas and recognize the inner drama as just the play of nature on the stage of the mind. They're unperturbed.
And this leads to deep equanimity, right?
Yep.
Famahav.
Yes. They treat pleasure and pain, high-value gold and low-value mud, praise and blame, friend and enemy with equal regard. Their happiness just isn't dependent on those temporary external things.
And finally, they don't stop acting, but the type of action changes fundamentally. They abandon the initiation of actions motivated by craving. They become aram paratyagi.
And this is such a crucial distinction. It doesn't mean they stop working or cooking dinner or performing their duties. The Gunatita person still goes to work, but the motivation has changed. A person bound by rajas starts a task because of a compulsive desire or a fear. The Gunatita person does the same task because it's necessary or it's their duty, their dharma, with zero internal attachment to the result.
The internal engine of striving has been turned off.
Completely.
So all these symptoms define the state, but if someone asks for the practical tool, the shortcut to achieving Gunatita, what is the ultimate solution given in verse 26?
The highest path, the source states, is unswerving, exclusive devotion of Yabhichari Bhakti to the divine.
And that really is the logical conclusion. Why does that single-minded dedication work where, endless mental analysis so often fails?
Because the divine is the foundation, the support, the ashray of everything that truly matters, the absolute Brahman immortality, the everlasting dharma, which is a creature's true, inherent nature and singular intrinsic happiness.
Intrinsic happiness, let's talk about that. Kantik suk.
Yes, akantik sukh. It's the joy that flows just from existence itself, regardless of external conditions. The gunas bind us by constantly distracting us with temporary external joys. So when we shift our attention completely and devotedly to that fundamental intrinsic joy, we automatically starve the gunas of the attention and energy they need to keep us bound.
So, what does this all mean for you listening to this? This deep dive reveals that your personality isn't static. It's a battleground where light, passion, and darkness are constantly competing.
A constant tug of war.
And liberation isn't achieved by fighting those feelings directly, but by becoming a detached observer, a witness, and
Yeah.
recognizing that the material world, Prakriti, is doing the work through the gunas, not your eternal soul.
You realize you are not the one performing actions rooted in desire or fear. You're the silent witness to nature's relentless play.
And once you know you are the witness, you are fundamentally free.
You are.
The source mentions that the divine is the basis of ekantik sukh, that singular, inherent joy of just existing. So if the gunas bind us by constantly making us seek external, temporary pleasures, whether that's the high of intellectual clarity or the rush of productive striving, what would your daily life look and feel like if you consciously prioritize that foundational, intrinsic joy that comes just from being over the manufactured highs of sattva and rajas, something to explore on your own?